A deal on Dickens, who could resist? A stack of Austen, warmly kissed. Golden Age crime tales twist and turn, every page a treasure to learn. Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea, reading always feels so free.
Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to my channel. This is Talia Nerds Out. Just want to do a book review, and then hopefully I'll be able to record another book review after this, because I actually am feeling like recording, which doesn't happen as much as I'd like it to. So I have a couple of Ngaio Marshes that I need to review. I got asked, I don't know if I ever responded, I do apologize. I got asked what Ngaio Marsh I would recommend starting with when I had done my last Ngaio Marsh review. And I meant to respond, I hadn't gotten around to it, but at that point, I had only read the one Ngaio Marsh, or I thought I'd only read the one Ngaio Marsh at that time, which was The Clutch of Constables. Now, it turns out that I have actually read this one here before that I'm about to review, but it's been a long time and I read it on Kindle. So this is my first time reading it since I've picked up the Ngaio Marsh collection. I finally have filled out that collection. I think I need to do another book review. Another book haul where I show my whole Ngaio Marsh collection now that it's complete. And they're all like this kind of size of the Jove ones. I think most of them probably are Jove productions, but this is actually the first Ngaio Marsh. I'm now reading them in order. Clutch of Constables, I actually read out of order. That just happened to be, I got it as a free thrift books, free book credit from thrift books. So that's why I started with Clutch of Constables. Decided I liked her writing, and that's why I have all of her other books now. So I decided I was going to start with the first one and try to do an order from there. So actually, this is not the first one. I'm sorry. It should be this one. I'll do a review on this one later. So this one is A Man Lay Dead. And this is with, well, first of all of her mysteries are, I think it's Inspector. Is Inspector Alien? I think it's Inspector. I don't think it's Superintendent or anything like that. Anyway, it's Alien. And his first name begins with R. Hold on, I'm going to find his name for you. Well, I know his name, but I can't remember his first name. I can't find it right away. Oh, sorry, there it is. Roderick Alien. Would help if I actually read the description on the back. But it's Chief Inspector Detective Alien. And his first name is Roderick. First of all, I like this detective. He kind of has that nice, and I mentioned this in a Georgette Heyer review, he has something of a feel of Georgette Heyer's Inspector Hemingway. Nowhere near the same character, but just that kind of, where enough of his personality comes through where he's interesting, but he's not overwhelming. This is my, second book in recent memory with him, but apparently I had read this before and it just didn't, maybe I wasn't in the right place when I first read it. I don't think I even did a book review on it. It was early on of me reading Golden Age mysteries that weren't Agatha Christie. It was actually the first Ngaio Marsh that I read. I just don't remember a whole lot about it when I was reading it at the time. I liked it a lot better this time around. Maybe just because I was in the right mind space, whatever. In some ways, this reminds me of another book that I read. And I compared aspects of Envious Casca by Georgette Heyer to this book, but also there are aspects of a book written by Marjorie Allingham. It's the first Marjorie Allingham book with her detective in it. He wasn't even the main character in that one, in that particular book. And I can't remember what the name of the book is, but it comes with a very similar conceit where you're playing a game and there's something about in that one, I think it was something about passing a dagger around or something, but the game ends in murder. And that's where it reminds me of the Marjorie Allingham book. There's other aspects more pertinent to the actual solving of the crime that remind me of Envious Casca by Georgette Heyer. But I enjoyed this. You're also introduced to this in this book to your kind of like, I would call him like a Watson-like character. He's a young reporter named Nigel Bathgate. And it took me a long time I was about halfway through this book here before I registered that he also shows up again in the second book, An Enter a Murderer. So I wonder if he's going to be a reoccurring character past these two books, because I felt so dumb when I realized that, oh yeah, he's the one from the first book. Ha-ha! Because Clutch of Constables is so different from either of these insofar as for a long time you don't even see Allian in Clutch of Constables. It's focused on his wife who, he hasn't yet met in this book or this book. I haven't gotten to the book yet where he meets his wife. But this one in particular, this is a country house mystery. And you have a game which, you have jealousies and stuff occurring at this location like you normally see in these country house mysteries. There's friction. And the friction in the case, in this particular case, it's a game that ends in murder. The lights are turned out for the game, but when the lights come back on, they find a guy murdered, and now they have to figure out who did it. Allian is called in, and one of the things that I've noticed between these two books is he harps a lot about how bad his memory is. There's no one ever believes him. Nigel mentions a couple times that he just kind of thinks that maybe Allian makes up that he has a poor memory, and that maybe that's just supposed to throw the suspects off. Now, we don't really get a good idea because it's more from Nigel's point of view than from Allian's. We don't really see from Allian's point of view if he really does have a poor memory, or if he's, like I said, like Nigel seems to assume that maybe he's putting that on a little bit. So this particular mystery, if I was to judge it by my normal Golden Age mysteries fair play, do I think that this is well set up? Well, first of all, your suspect is among the list of people that would be considered. So your murderer is not someone that comes out of nowhere. He is considered when Allian is going through his list. And you're given a reason to even think why, you don't find that this particular person's, you don't feel like his or her motive comes out of nowhere. You're given enough points within the book where that you can see why that character might feel motivated to do something about, like, to kill this person that ends up being murdered. So when the book ends, you can see why it got to that point, or you can see that it doesn't feel like it comes out of left field. Now, there's a point where I feel like this book slips a bit into the melodrama. There's a whole side plot where there's it almost feels like a Big Four level of ridiculousness, where it's like you feel like all of a sudden you have aspects of a spy ring type thing going on, randomly in the middle of the book. I mean, I can see where it came from, why she brought it in. It just almost felt like it got spliced randomly into the book because it has a different flavor than the rest of the book. Like I said, it almost feels like the Big Four type um, incongruency. So, because of that alone, this is not my favorite of her mysteries, but I do like Nigel. I do like Alien. And I actually do think that the way that the way that the murderer handled the situation and the explanation behind it makes sense. I could have possibly done without the little random Big Four type international drama that was kind of spliced in there, but it's not, so jarring that I can't get past it for the bulk of the book that is good, that I really enjoy. And like I said, I do kind of understand partially why it's in there, even though I do find it a little bit of an odd fit. So I like our narrated character. I think that the setup for the suspects is well done. I think that the murderer makes sense. It doesn't feel like, you just got someone pulled out of thin air and had to go like, oh, that's a murderer, guys, even though that person was never mentioned. No, you didn't have any of that. The murderer was in the list of suspects the whole time, and you don't feel like Ngaio Marsh, pulled the wool over your eyes in an unfair way. I think she was still getting her feet a little bit at this point because of that, like I said, really kind of odd side plot of the international drama. But everything else really does make up for it. I enjoyed this book. This would I think I ended up giving this probably a 4-star. Not my favorite of Marsh's work, but still a good book, and I still would recommend it. So hope that you enjoy that book review. If you've read Ngaio Marsh before, what book would you recommend of hers if you were to recommend a first-time reader to get started on her work? And are you a fan of her work, or do you have a Golden Age author that you would actually say is better than her, besides Agatha Christie, because that's not fair? I do think it's funny, though, that if you're reading one of the Jove publications, they always put over Ngaio Marsh's name, she writes better than Christie, which is a bold-faced lie, but it's cute. It's a cute attempt. And I love Ngaio Marsh. I think she's very good. I think she deserves her reputation as one of the queens of detective fiction at that time, which usually the queens of detective fiction are considered Agatha Christie, of course. Like, she is the queen of queens of detective fiction. But then you have Dorothy L. Sayers, Ngaio Marsh, and Marjorie Allingham. Now, I feel like someone else could have been mentioned that doesn't get mentioned, but I can't remember who that was at this point. But those are the names I usually see mentioned as being like the queens of detective fiction. Now, honestly, Golden Age provided a lot of really excellent women who wrote mysteries, and Ngaio Marsh does deserve credit as a really good author in this genre, but she doesn't write better than Christie. Anyway, hope that you enjoyed this review. Interested in seeing if anyone else has their favorite Ngaio Marsh, or who's your favorite, like I said, Golden Age mystery author. I'm interested in seeing who that might be. Maybe if I haven't checked out their work already, I'll check that one out next. Yeah, I can't talk. Maybe if I have not checked that author's work out already, I'll check that author's work out next. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Have a very wonderful day. God bless. Bye-bye.
Books keep coming home with me. Piles so tall, they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.